Hi guys, welcome to the 5th episode of Talk Crazy to Me. Today my guests are Jenny and Stephanie. Hi guys.
Hi.
Hi, Tanya. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you guys. I really am. This is the first time taking it international. So here we go with that. So who wants to, I guess I usually start by saying how I know the guests. So would either of you like to kind of jump in with how you know me or how we found each other?
Yeah. Let's see, Tanya. We connected in a Facebook group.
Yes, we did.
And we got to, you sent me a message, yeah. And then we got to connect and we got to get on screen with each other. And I felt just like I made an immediate connection to you and being able to feel so comfortable with you and just like jump all in. And we were able to find some commonalities. And it's so amazing when you speak with people, because I think that so often we're made to feel like we're different, right? We're in these different boxes and categories. And then when you really like open up and you're a little bit vulnerable with people, you find that like we're all just human.
Of course. Absolutely. And so we met on a Facebook group for looking for podcast guests. And I put out a little blurb just basically looking for guests. And you were one of the people that jumped on and said you were down to do it. So it was pretty amazing. And then we did a little pre-Zoom. And got to know each other. And then my thing fell out of my ear already. And then that was it. And then you said that you would love to do it with your business partner. And then so this is my first time meeting Jenny, but it's been pretty awesome so far in just the few minutes that we've, just connected. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, we usually connect to the same people.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so great. So stories. So can you guys say where you're from, maybe, so that viewers know where you're coming from?
Absolutely. We're both in the States. I am in Southern California in San Diego.
And I'm not too far away from Stephanie, but I'm in Nevada, in the northern part of Nevada, not the fun part in Las Vegas.
Well, I've been to Las Vegas like 5 times, and I've been to California, I think, twice. So I love the West Coast, to be honest. I love getting over there as much as I can. But it's been a while. So I'll have to come visit soon. Maybe
not
one day.
Not in the summer. It's hot right now.
Not in the summer. Yeah, it's probably too hot. So I'm going to jump in. So my first question to both of you, and you can decide who wants to jump in first, but what makes you crazy?
I feel like it would be easier to say what doesn't make me crazy.
That's great. That's a great answer. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it would be, I actually want to hear Jenny's response. I'm not sure that I've ever even asked her this.
I think it's funny because when the first time I heard that question, I was like, I'm like, you know what? Over the last couple of years, I mean, I used to have like a whole list of things I could tell you that bugged me, like all these pet peeves and things that drove me nuts. It's not like I don't have those, but I realized over the last few years, starting with learning how to be a coach and all of that it all is me. Like I make myself crazy because it's all the thoughts that I have about whatever's going around me that's actually what makes me crazy. So, but knowing that is huge because then I can be like, do I want to let this make me crazy? Is it worth it? Like, for instance, cars, driving. Oh my God. I was the worst with like getting so angry and frustrated with people and their driving.
Right.
And I mean, it still drives me nuts, but I can very easily go, okay, it's not worth my energy.
The awareness is there more probably, right? Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. And what about you? How are you feeling on that question?
I wasn't expecting you to say that, Jenny, but I love that because even my 6-year-old was frustrated in the car with traffic the other day, right? And she's like, it's all these other cars' fault, right? And I was like, well, no, we're part of it. Like, we are the traffic, right?
It's true.
And I think it would be interesting, actually. I want to pose this to my kids of what they think makes me crazy. And now I'm like, now this question has opened up a lot of things for me. But really, just to get like straight down to what makes me a little batty is that we are sold this elixir of life, right? That is alcohol. And
Totally.
that we are told that this is the best thing. It's for all occasions. It's for celebrations, right? It's for having
Yep.
fun with your friends. It's for making lasting, fun memories. And it's also for when you're grieving and going through a difficult time, right? And it's supposed to make us feel better all the time. And this is maybe one of the biggest lies that we have ever been sold, and we all just believe it.
I could not agree with you more. It is so glamorized everywhere you go. It's something that we see constantly. And as someone that suffers, like I'm been diagnosed with bipolar. So depression is a big part of that, obviously, if you know anything about it. And alcohol is like the devil when it comes to mixing depression and alcohol. And it's a downer, right? It is naturally a downer. And yet everyone's like, oh, it brings you up. It makes you happy. It makes you feel better. But does it really is a different question. So I love that for sharing that. That's very, very true.
That's one of the things too that drives me nuts. Every time I see it on TV glamorized, like that is one of the things that makes me crazy, that I let myself be crazy about, because it actually fuels the fire for what we do, which is helping people, because so many people are stuck because they think that they can't let go of this thing because everybody else holds it up so high. And then at the same time, if you say anything about being concerned about your own drinking, then you're automatically an alcoholic. You're automatically, and the other, you like kicked out of the, nobody wants to be rejected like that. Nobody wants to be, so people keep it to themselves and they don't look for help, and they keep believing this lie, and we want to make sure that people do. And every time I see that on TV, I just want to yell that it's a lie.
Yeah, and we treat people like there's something wrong with them if they don't drink, right? Like, oh, like what's wrong? Like, what do you mean you don't? And it's such an interesting thing, because obviously you're healthier if you don't, in so many ways, but yeah, it is one of those things when you say you don't, it's almost like you need an explanation for it.
And every time I hear drink responsibly, that drives me crazy.
Why does that drive you crazy?
Because it's that blaming us
Yes.
for what alcohol actually causes in people. So it's on us to be responsible when it takes away our ability to be responsible. That's the very definition of what alcohol is.
Totally. That makes sense too. I've never thought about that one before. That's very, very true. Very, very true. So tell me a little bit about your business then. So you touched upon it, but like get in a little bit more detail so that people understand what it's about.
Do you want to go, Stephanie?
Yeah. So, well, how far back should we go, Tanya?
As
far back as you want to go. How long has it been?
Once upon a time. No.
Yeah, our business kind of came a life of its own. Like it just kind of came out. Like we didn't aim for it. It just sort of happened.
Right. That's cool. Organically is the best way anything happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So just a little backstory, I guess, on Jenny and I. And Jenny, feel free to jump in. Jenny and I are both moms with careers and juggling all the things. And we both found ourselves in a place where we were using alcohol to cope with all the stresses in life. And around the same time period, but not knowing each other yet, we started questioning, do I have a drinking problem? Is this serious? What is going on here? And we both found a resource called This Naked Mind, which is a book written by Annie Grace.
Okay.
And this book is just for any of your listeners who are just curious. This is extremely eye-opening about how alcohol impacts just the human body, all human bodies, how our mind is involved, and how we can start to get back control over alcohol and not let it run our lives. And after Annie wrote this book, she started developing programs because she had people reaching out to her saying how this information was life-changing to them. And so this is in the end of 2019.
Okay.
And then in the beginning of 2020, Jenny and I had both, again, separately, we didn't know each other, had joined a live alcohol experiment, right, Jenny? And one of Annie's programs. And the live alcohol experiment is where you take a 30-day break from alcohol and learn about what it's doing to you and kind of reset some beliefs and thoughts that you have around it. Now, if anybody here remembers the year 2020, it was a little crazy.
Very, very crazy.
And as the world started shutting down in March, there was a lot of uncertainty, and there was a lot of people who were turning to alcohol to help cope through uncertainty and fear and just everything going on. And there was a big need for this Naked Mind. And so they created some free calls for people to jump on with certified coaches who are experienced in the methodology. Jenny and I were both on these calls. Again, did not know each other.
Okay, very cool.
And that really kickstarted us into really, really looking at how alcohol was impacting us. And through that experience and through finding our own freedom from alcohol and realizing how much better our lives were without it, and we wanted to give back and do the same for other people who are struggling, who feel stuck, who are drinking more than they want to be. And so we became certified coaches through This Naked Mind, and it was during that certification program that we met.
Very cool.
Yeah, and we automatically just connected and became friends. And then we had the opportunity of coaching together in one of This Naked Mind programs. And we had a group of people who really resonated with both Jenny and I and said, you're our coaches.
Yeah.
We're hiring you to carry forward with us. And they have been with us for 2 years now. And so Jenny and I took that as, well, we're doing something right here. And that is how our business kind of evolved into what it is today. And so we offer group coaching together for people who are ready to explore their relationship with alcohol, or maybe are beyond that point and know that alcohol is causing a problem in their life and they don't want it to run them anymore. They want to feel free. They want it to be small and irrelevant in their lives. They don't want to feel like they're white knuckling it. They really want to experience freedom. And so in the group community, it's this really loving and judgment-free space where people are able to receive support and just be able to explore themselves and to relate to other people. Like I said, we're all just human, and we experience these same challenges that everybody else does.
Of course. Well, first, like, can I just say what a beautiful thing that you met the way you did and then turned your story into helping others just because you wanted to spread that outwards, which I think is so beautiful to even have the journey for yourself and share that story, but then want to do it with others is so great. So I love that you, both of you do that together and that you met each other and that had that connection and then now you're working together. That's such a lovely story.
Thank you.
It's really cool.
And I think that what makes it so connectable and what you're doing, Tanya, too, is like we're sharing our stories from a really real place.
Yes.
Right? And allowing people to know that like you're not alone. Like I experienced this too. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you, you know, and trying to release that shame.
Of course. So the shame attached to it, I think once it becomes a problem, I think that's when the shame comes in and then it's almost like that's when it's really difficult, right? Like that's when it becomes really hard. Can you speak a little bit, because I'd like to like speak a little bit about like each of your journeys. So where are you comfortable speaking when you felt like it became a problem and how you knew it was a problem? Either one of you. It doesn't.
Yeah, good question. No. I didn't feel that way, just speaking for myself. I wasn't even convinced that it was necessarily a problem, right? Because I knew that I wasn't an alcoholic, right? We're taught to believe that there's these two spectrums. You're either an alcoholic or you're a normal drinker, right? And there's nothing really in between. And I knew I wasn't an alcoholic. And so I wasn't really under the impression that I had a problem. It was more so that I just needed to get better at it, or I needed to find a new workaround or a new tool, something to get me like back under control.
Right.
Is what I would say.
Okay. And then what about for you, Jenny? How did you feel?
Ooh, my story is, I think, a little unique just because I've experienced the alcohol issues from every aspect that you can think of, because I grew up in a family where everyone drank. My dad, he was what you would call a functioning alcoholic. So he would come home every night from work and have his beer. And it was a big part of the divorce between my mom and my dad and the fighting over custody and all of that. And by the time I turned 16, my dad's drinking had gotten bad enough that, you know, he had to go, he was forced into detox.
Okay.
And that was, I mean, that's a crazy story, but I fought with him for years to quit. And I kept thinking that he was choosing that thing over me, and I didn't understand that because I was a kid, you know. But that experience made me want to study addiction and help people, because I kept thinking about other kids that probably I had a lot of friends that grew up with not just alcoholics but drug addicts for parents, right. And so it was just something I saw everywhere. Right. And I studied that in college. I got a minor in substance abuse treatment, but I didn't continue that education because something wasn't clicking. I did an internship in a woman's treatment, where they stayed in the treatment facility. And they were it was like they get court ordered to do it, so they do it. And then as soon as they get out of that legal issue, they're back.
Right back.
Yeah. And I'm like, there's something missing. And I didn't know what it was at the time. I just knew that what they were doing, forcing people into treatment and that kind of thing, it just wasn't working. Something else, I didn't know what it was. So I didn't pursue that. But I never addressed the underlying issues. So then I had the surgery and I couldn't eat the way I did anymore. So I started drinking more. And then that became obviously a big problem, which they try to warn you about, but they don't give you enough. They don't give enough like into the mental health aspect of it when people are doing those surgeries. And I kind of knew that, but I was just like desperate. So I went for it. And then it didn't take, I don't know, a couple years before I was drinking more than probably 2 to 3 bottles of wine a day. And
Okay,
you wouldn't
wow.
have known it. Like, you
Yeah.
wouldn't have known it. Like, nobody knew that
Yeah.
that's what I was going through. But that was the thing that when I finally, because of what I experienced my whole life, I'm like, this is not okay.
Yeah. You knew, but you didn't necessarily know how to change it at the time, but you knew what you had been through it. I can share the same connection in the sense that my dad was, I wouldn't say functioning. Like he was an alcoholic. And so I grew up in that household, and beer was his, drink of choice. So I can still, to this day, hear the clinking of the bottles every time you went to go grab another one. Like I can still hear it if I really try, because it was and I was around the same age when he eventually, I helped him to stop drinking. And that was a big thing in my life. But my parents still separated for 2 years because of it. And then eventually got back together. He just died last year. So that's a whole other ballgame of what I'm dealing with when it comes to grieving a parent. But the issues of his drinking, it actually turned me off alcohol quite a bit. So I never became a big drinker. So we all kind of go through our different paths depending on what we've been through, right? And I think that when you have a parent who has been through something like that and you've watched it and even wanted to never be like it, we still sometimes become it, right? And it can be very scary. So thank you for sharing that.
I didn't drink much when I was younger. Like, all my friends started drinking pretty young, and even into 21, I wasn't that into it because I was so hyper aware of how it could lead to that for me. So it wasn't until I lost my other coping mechanism that it started to become a problem, which was like a double-edged sword too. But we weren't given the tools. Like, we in our generation, we're taught not to feel our feelings. Like, just don't feel the bad feelings. Just ignore them. Pretend they're not there. Suck it up. And so all of that was just toxic to us.
Of course.
And so until you find, those things, and it's scary. Nobody wants to say, oh, I want to dig in that closet and see what's in there.
Exactly. But if we don't unpack it and we don't start going there, it does manifest in all these different ways, right? Like, so it's scary to go there, but I think if you don't go there, it shows up no matter what, right? So it is about doing the work and going into those places and having those conversations with a therapist or with a coach like you guys, someone, so that you start to unpack it. And get to the nitty gritty, get to those underlying issues, because it's in there somewhere and it's happening for a reason. But we, like you said, we have this thing with glamorizing, especially alcohol, that's our coping mechanism. That's where we go to. It's okay to do it because it's legal and because everyone does it, and you know what I mean? So you get so caught up in it, and then before you know it, it's a problem, and then you don't even know what to do with it. So I love that you guys are talking about that. And speak a little bit to me, because I think we're getting close to the end-ish, but I want to speak a little bit about mother. You guys focus on mothers, right?
We tend to attract mothers, right?
Sorry?
Yeah. we attract them, but no, I would say that one, we help everyone. We've had male clients, we've had women without children, yet we tend to, that seems to be who we relate to, because that's where we're at in this phase in our life. And we're very passionate about it because Jenny and I have both experienced what it's like to have children while we're using alcohol as a coping tool, and being able to see the other side of things and see how different our family lives are, our lives are, our relationships with our children, how our children react differently now that we are free of alcohol. And so we do have a deep passion for giving that opportunity to other families, other moms, other children, because it makes such a huge impact in people's lives.
Yes. Oh, I can honestly, I can feel it from you guys, to be honest, of how much you must be helping people, because I probably am running a list of people in my head that could benefit from something like this, because it's just, it's so like common in a sense, I guess, in a way. Because again, we talk about it all the time, right? We see it all the time. It's in our imagery all the time as well.
I think that's the hardest part too, is because the people that we want to help, we really want to help before it becomes a problem. And so because of the stigma and the glamorizing of alcohol, like people are like, oh, I'm fine. I don't need your help, So it's not necessarily that they are having an issue with alcohol now. It's just that if you're using it if you're giving alcohol a job, and you're using it as a tool that you're telling your brain that you need this thing to get through life, then there's going to come a point where it does become a problem and it has more control over you than you do of it. It's the nature of the substance, and it doesn't mean anything about you, but we want to give people the tools to be able to get control at whatever point they find themselves. And they can get out of it, and the shame and all of that comes with it, like that's what we want, to get the information and the awareness and the acceptance out for people so that they seek help before it becomes like rock bottom.
Right. And I love that you touched upon this before about the spectrum, that it's like not just alcoholic or not. There's a whole spectrum of where you could fall on that line. And that's with most things, I would say. There's a spectrum, but we usually are black or white, one or the other. And it's not really the way the world works, right? So I love that you touched upon that it's, you can be anywhere along that line. It's not just one or the other. I think that's really cool. I think that's a really important thing to put out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And recognizing that it's not your fault if you are realizing that alcohol is taking up too much space in your life.
Right.
Right. If you are finding yourself saying, oh, I need a drink, right? It's not your fault. You've been conditioned that way because we're taught from a very young age that alcohol is a tool to help in all situations. So
right.
It's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to do something about it.
Right.
Once you start recognizing this.
That's great. That's a great way of putting it as well. Yeah, no, for sure. I love that too. I'm trying to think of where else we can take this, because I'm just thinking we have just gone to so many different places already, but is there anything specifically you'd like to touch upon that we haven't at this point, because we're getting close?
I think that we could talk about this for hours, and only because, and the only thing I'll say is how it relates to like mental health and that kind of thing is, that is like, that's the underlying thing for most of us. And it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It's something that we have to sometimes battle with, or it's a struggle and it's not fun and all of that. But we have to take the stigma away from that as well, because those are usually the reasons that's at the root of why people are using alcohol or other substances to cope. So being able to have these conversations and talk about, I know that now that all of this stuff that I was dealing with led to the alcohol because I didn't know how to deal with it in a healthy way. And I had depression when I was a teenager. I was diagnosed, and then anxiety later on. I had anxiety as a kid. It wasn't diagnosed. I just found that out. And then I just, a couple years ago, found out I have ADHD, which if I had known that so far, like it would have but then if I would have known then, it would have been different. My story would have been different. I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be able to help the people that I can help today. So I embrace all of those things and all of my mental struggles, which I don't see as bad things about me. They actually are helping me understand me and find love for
Yes.
myself, and then therefore
Yeah.
for other people.
No, that's thank you so much for sharing all that. And it's so true that that's what this is all about. That's what Talk Crazy to Me is about, because the more we talk about our mental health issues, the more we let it out loud that we all carry some sort of burden or struggle is what it's all about, because that's where it starts, right? Because we hide and mask it to sort of put on that show and that facade all the time that we're okay and that we're normal. And it does lead to coping with different methods that are probably not great for us because we're trying to mask it all the time. And I think the more we're open about it, we talk about it, we share, we realize that other people have connections to what we go through. I think it takes away a lot of that shame. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's great.
Beautiful, Tanya. Yeah, thanks.
I'm so happy to have you both here and share your stories with everybody and your business that sounds like it's amazing and thriving. And I just wish you guys all the luck in the world in what you're doing, and continue to do it, because you can just feel the light that you guys carry in this and the passion that you carry for it, and what you really are doing is an amazing thing. So please keep it up, and thank you so much for sharing that with me and with everybody that's watching.
Thank you for giving us this space to share this really important message, and thank you for what you're doing of sharing, opening up people's perspectives to what mental health is and what it looks like. So thank you to you, Tanya.
Thank you. And really, I'm so passionate about this, and really it just meeting people and having them share it just feels so good. Like I leave every time feeling so great. So I know that I just have to keep doing this because it just feels good. And you guys bringing it international is so cool to me. Like, I love that. I love that we're, across the border and we can share these connections and share these similarities. And yeah, I'm so grateful. So thank you so much.
That's what the world needs right now, is that connection, right?
Absolutely. That's what we need, for sure.
We love supporting
sure.
this. Like, the more people that are out talking about these good things and trying to connect people, the better. And I don't think I could keep doing this if I didn't walk away from these interviews feeling as good as I do, because I have stage fright usually. But these conversations are so easy to have because they're authentic, and we're all passionate about it. So I can do it for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And every time you do it, I think it gives you a little bit more confidence, right? And a little bit more strength in it. Because I was so afraid sort of to talk openly about my own stuff, because I had been in the mental health field for 15 years and sort of hid behind my own issues by helping others. And then I realized I kept hitting a wall. And it wasn't until I started to talk about my own and explore what was going on for me that I was able to actually really, really start helping. So it's all a part of it, and it's all a part of our journey. Like you said, that you can't kind of go back and change it, even though sometimes you wish you could. But it's all a part of your journey of when you reach that point of understanding yourself and having more awareness in it. So I'm so grateful for you guys. So thank you so much. Thank you, Jenny and Stephanie, for joining on this episode of Talk Crazy to Me. The information about their coaching business will be in the description below. And if you are interested in being a guest, please reach out to me, DM me, whatever way to get in touch, and let's keep this conversation going. Thanks for being here, guys. Bye.